Now an I-team investigation.
I asked the woman, what does that mean? And she said, well, yeah, I don't really know. No one really knows what it means.
A Meriden businessman is suing the state because he says they're refusing to let him open a business. He wants to offer a limo service and says he's got a business plan so good he can save customers big bucks.
But a vague state law is keeping his plan from becoming a reality. And some say this law promotes safety, but as Chief Investigative Reporter Eric Parker found out, even those in the industry admit it also shuts down competition.
Steve Martorelli is an entrepreneur.
One day I was calling around for some limos, and we found out the price was very expensive. So I started doing my homework and I realized, hey, we could buy a limo and offer the service for half the price.
So Steve dug into the regulations. He needed a permit from the State Department of Transportation. They checked his background and his business plan. They even wanted to know that he'd found qualified drivers.
Believe me, that was kind of tough because people are coming to my office and saying, oh, you don't have a limo company? So it was tough, but I was able to line up some skilled drivers.
He jumped through every hoop and thought he was a great candidate for the 2 licenses for 2 limos allowed by law, except for one obscure requirement. The law says applicants have to prove that their community needs more limos.
I asked the woman, what does that mean? And she said, well, yeah, I don't really know. No one really knows what it means.
It's called the Public Convenience and Necessity Requirement. Applicants typically prove it by bringing potential customers to their application hearing to say they wanted a limo on a certain night, but all the limos were booked. But Steve Martorelli wasn't motivated by people who wanted limos but couldn't find one. He thought he'd find brand new customers who couldn't afford a limo before.
If you can offer something at half the price of existing competitor, there's a whole nother market out there.
But the state didn't buy that unusual argument, and Martorelli's application was denied. So he sued, and the I-team was in the courtroom earlier this month for the hearing before Judge Elliot Prescott. Martorelli and attorney Michael Feldman argued that substantially lower price always serves a community need.
I cannot think of a better, more elegant and simple way of establishing public need than to say, I'm here, I'm qualified, I'm suitable to provide these, and I can do it at half the price.
But Martorelli and Feldman know that no one has been successful on the hard-to-define public need requirement through lower prices alone. So they're also asking Judge Prescott to throw out the entire law as unconstitutional, especially since a limo company that already has permits can get permits to add 2 more cars to their fleet every year, while Martorelli can't get any permits unless he proves they're needed.
This is a law that provides for unequal treatment, and it does so for no rational reason.
Getting a judge to rule that a decades-old law is unconstitutional is a tough fight to win. Judge Prescott challenged Assistant Attorney General Charles Walsh on why he shouldn't. Attorney Walsh was assigned to defend the law.
And what is the regulatory interest in not giving out new licenses if there is no demand?
If you were to have a marketplace based solely upon rates, you would have a race to the bottom where you would flood the marketplace and you would possibly compromise the public safety where vehicles may not be maintained in a proper manner.
Supporters of the law say a price war would be dangerous for limo passengers and argue that even if the law is stifling competition, lawmakers should decide on how to change it.
Your Honor, I think that's a question for the legislature to answer and not for this court.
The argument is this. If an entrepreneur wants to open up an ice cream shop right next to an existing ice cream shop, he can do so as long as he meets all the health codes and other laws. Whether there's enough of a community need to make his business successful, that's up to him to decide. But for limos, the standard is different. The state can decide there's no need and the new business will not be allowed. The I-team went to a longtime limo company owner to find out why the industry fights so hard to keep this standard.
I think this industry is different in that respect, Eric, because the potential for catastrophe is much greater, moving people on the roads, hundreds of people a day.
Mark DeChara owns Gateway Limousine. He was adamant that the need requirement increases safety because he says in a price war, the quickest way to save money is to cut down on maintenance.
Because you lose the case doesn't mean that it was an insiders only game. It simply means that you didn't present a valid argument to support your case.
But look what the I-Team found in the transcript of Martorelli's hearing at DOT. The only opposition to his application came from nearby Premier Limousine. And at the hearing, they didn't talk about safety or maintenance or quality. When asked if their interest in the hearing was to keep out a potential competitor, they say, quote, "Correct. That's exactly what I would say."
If he did not prove the need, then there should not be a permit. That would be our opinion.
Premier owner Steve DeMarco tells the I-Team that one line of the transcript is misleading. He claims while any good business fights the competition, their interest is mostly in making sure every applicant meets all the requirements of the law. DeMarco was himself denied the first time he applied. He eventually got one permit in 1984 and now has 140.
We had to prove a need necessity. The first time we didn't prove that need, so that's why we were denied. So I think that if you go in there and you prove a need, and that the public's behind you, and you have all these customers that want to do business with you, and you could provide a service that another company can't, why not? He should be able to get his permit.
But Martorelli's argument is that because others prove need once, doesn't mean it's doing anything but protecting the current limo companies now.
There are regulations and laws that require seatbelts, that require safe equipment and safe drivers. That's how you regulate safety, not by having some concept of public need that nobody really understands.
No matter how Judge Prescott rules, an appeal is likely. Either way, Steve Martorelli says he's going to fight for the chance to prove that he's a good enough businessman to win over customers, whether they know they need him or not. With the I-Team, Eric Parker, Channel 3, Eyewitness News.